Hello and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of Consider This, where I meet with an actor or other theater practitioner in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to discuss theater in the DFW Metroplex. Today, my very special guest star is Mr. Ian Mead Moore.
Hello.
And we are going to be discussing Uptown Players' production of Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike, a new play by Christopher Durang that's having its regional premiere at the Cleta Humphreys Theater.
Regional premiere.
Yes. On Broadway, the cast included David Hyde Pierce and Sigourney Weaver, and I think Christine Nielsen, but I shouldn't say that without knowing for sure. But she does a lot of Christopher Durang plays in New York.
And as long as we're setting the stage, I believe it also won the 2013 Best Play Award.
You are correct, at the Tonys.
At the Tony Awards.
At the Antoinette Perry Awards.
No word yet on how many Drama Desk nominations.
It's true. And no word yet on how many column nominations this production will receive. But the play has a lot of very recognizable Dallas talent, including Bob Hess, Wendy Welch, Diana Sheehan, and Nadine Marisa, who I actually was in So Help Me God at Theater 3 with Nadine. And she played a maid in the 1920s. And in this play, she plays a maid in the present time, but is more of a... what was the name of that woman who used to do the psychic phone line?
Miss Cleo.
Yes, Miss Cleo.
Miss Cleo.
So she's a very Miss Cleo sort of character.
Yeah.
But she's also named Cassandra, which in keeping with the literary references in this play, Cassandra is the daughter of Priam. She was a prophet, and in keeping with that, Cassandra in this play is constantly spouting off her predictions, which mainly come true.
Mainly come true, but they're also very theatrically presented.
Yes, they are. Well, as is everything else in the show. Christopher Durang is a playwright who very, very frequently satirizes something in his plays. He has a Tennessee Williams play parody that is called "For Whom the Southern Bell Tolls." Mm-hmm. And then that is also usually paired with what is a Sam Shepard parody. Mm-hmm. And I'm blanking on what the Sam Shepard parody is called. But
I didn't know what the other one was either, so I'll just say unburied adult. I don't know.
Unburied adult.
I don't know. That's my...
I'll edit that out.
All right.
But yes, so in this one, the target is mainly Chekhov. There are references to cherry orchards and going to Moscow. As a matter of fact, they say that it's the famous line from
the Three Sisters?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. I'll be honest. I think there was a lot of Easter eggs hidden in this play, literary Easter eggs, because the only real Chekhov references that I got were the ones that the Durang paddled me over the head with,
right?
Which I'm fine with. I'm glad because it meant that everyone got in on the joke. Like
right.
Even the most casual practitioner of 20th century, 19th century, culture would recognize that Uncle Vanya and the cherry orchard. So for me, that was good. I was like, hey, I get to be part of the gig. But apparently, there's a lot more subtle.
There are, and I'll be quite honest, plenty that went over my head as well. That, I recognize them as references, but I couldn't tell you where they were from.
I only recognize them as references because of the whooshing sound that's going over my head.
But there's also some skewering of theater styles, which was very amusing to me as an actor. Everything from Meisner and Stanislavski to proper projection techniques, which is funny.
And actually, I think that's credit to how quickly I caught on. I am, despite being a theater practitioner of some sort, I'm terrible at literary interpretation and metaphor, but I got very early on, thanks to B.J. Cleveland, the director, and the cast, that it was intentional satire.
Right.
Like the first 20 minutes was incredible. It was very presentational.
Yes, and there was a lot of exposition.
And expositional, presentational, expositional, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Well, and at first I was like, wow, they really are beating us over the head with the exposition. Yeah. And then, of course, it clicked. That's the point. Mm-hmm. That's what Durang is doing. And it's weird because it was played rather naturalistically in comparison to a lot of the other stuff in the play. But that was the thing that was a little confusing to me at first, because they weren't overdoing it. They weren't being bad actors giving the exposition. And speaking of bad actors, there really is not one in this play.
Not a single one.
No, it's quite amazing. And I always love watching Bob Hess work. And this is a role that he really, really excels in. Mm-hmm. And without giving anything away, although the show closes in 3 days. Yeah. Without giving anything away, it all builds to a magnificent climax with his character. Yeah. And it was really, really great to listen to and to watch. Yeah. And it was completely, and with all the absurdity that went on around it, it was really very, very real, very visceral.
Yeah, I could see that being on the page that would probably the climax of the play that culminates in Bob Hess's performance could be seen as kind of a screed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you consider the way the rest of the play goes, which is basically, again, not giving too much away, but he acts as the heat sink for all the madness that is going on throughout. Because he was pretty level.
He was the straight man.
He was a straight man, and he had funny lines. Like, it wasn't like like he was a foil to everyone. Right. He had his own funny bits, but in terms of outlandish performance and wild swings of emotion and arc, it wasn't like his was an arc. His was more like a I don't know, like a spike.
Spike.
That was totally unintentional. No, I made quotey air marks. I totally meant that. But yeah, I think that like in the sense of the way that BJ and the cast paced that, the way he was directed, the way he played it, was that he was this calm while all this other dysfunction is swirling around him, and then finally, all the dysfunction that the rest of the cast has been going through and ladling on him explodes. Right. So it makes sense in that sense.
And also, thank you for using the technical term quotey air marks. I appreciate that. So I don't like giving away a lot of the plot, but just to sort of give you the framework of this show, it takes place in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, but it's basically Moscow. That's the setting of all of either Moscow, or they're going to Moscow, or they're
nothing good ever happens in Moscow.
Right, exactly. It's just like Blaine. But so the characters are their parents were professors and actors and
amateur actors
of great community theater jokes as well, which was very funny.
Yeah.
But and so they named their children after Chekhovian characters. So that's why you have Vanya and Sonia and Masha. And then it's funny because the other character that comes in is Nina, which is a character from
The Seagull.
The Seagull. Very good. And it's almost, you just rattled that off your head.
I know. It's kind of like I looked it up.
It's like you have Google in your head, and you just didn't even have to use your phone.
Google Glass. Haven't you heard about
Glass, that? Yes. We're not going to get into that. This isn't a tech show.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have Nina that comes in, and then you've got Cassandra, which is from Greek mythology and the classic Greek plays. And then Masha shows up with Spike. And it's very appropriate also that he has a name that is completely incongruous to everyone else in the show, because he is a presence that disrupts just about everyone.
I mean,
the play.
Not just incongruous to the rest of the characters' names, but in general to the world. In fact, like they allude to that. They say something like, "Is that the name you were born with?"
Right. Is that your God-given name?
And I don't know if you caught this or not, but they kind of threw it away, which was funny because there was so many jokes in the play. But when he was describing, they said, "Was that the name that your parents gave you?" And he said, "No, my original name was Vlad."
Yes, Vlad. There's some reason he gives that didn't work as an actor name, but I don't remember what that was. That was pretty funny.
It's like, so he did have a. I don't even know. I guess that is kind of Chekhovian as well. were there a lot of not prominent Vlads in? The only one I can think of is Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, I can't think of a Vlad in Chekhov's plays. I'm not a theater historian, but I don't recall a Vlad. But you brought up something that I wanted to mention: the world of the play. Sometimes, even in a very good show, you have actors that seem to be in a different play from the rest of the cast. And I did not get that in this production at all. And I credit that to B.J. Cleveland. Because these characters could... I mean, some of it's over the top, and some of it's pseudo-realistic. Excuse me. But everyone was in the same play. Everyone was on the same page as far as the arc of the production. And another thing I wanted to bring up, I'm sorry, did you want to comment on that before I barrel over you?
Just a little bit.
Go ahead.
Specific examples that the Spike character was very different from everyone in the almost everyone in the play, kind of fantastical fairy-like, but his weirdness was self-aware and acknowledged by the rest of the cast.
Right.
Like you said, it wasn't like he was operating in a different play. He was in the same play, being weird.
Right.
You know, all his little mannerisms and such like. But people, they would stop and look at him and be like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
So it was which again is a strong directorial choice.
It served the proper purpose.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, and it's why I love seeing productions at the Kalita Humphreys done by Uptown Players, because I saw shows there for years when the Dallas Theater Center was there. And of course they have the biggest budget in town, and they would they would usually do very lavish productions. And I love the fact that the sets at Uptown look really, really first rate.
Oh, man.
And you can't do a set like that on very many stages in this town.
No, you cannot.
Even Stage West has a stage that is smaller than the Kalita.
Smaller and lower ceilings.
Mm-hmm. Theater 3, you couldn't do a set like that because it's in the round.
Yeah.
Kitchen Dog, their stuff is usually more modern. It looks great, but it's
minimalist.
It's sometimes very minimalist because it serves the productions they do. But I have to say that the set design by Claire Floyd DeVries,
yes,
with the set dressing by Kevin Brown, was magnificent. It was really beautiful.
Usually, I will go into a theater and the set doesn't usually catch my eye unless either negatively or positively. If it's a bare stage, and I think I just wait for the actors to liven it up, which is great too.
Right.
I like too. But I walked in and I was sitting. I was like, wow, that's a fucking house that's on stage.
Yeah. And I usually I'm a bad critic whenever it comes to the technical aspects of the show, because I get lost in that kind of stuff. I take it for granted, and I hate that I do that, but it is just something that's natural for me. There were certain things like in Assassins, even though I was in Assassins, I was sitting on stage during a lot of the show, just marveling at how badass the lighting was. I absolutely loved it. And but in this show, I really have to say, and I noticed it in the production photos before I even went in to see the show tonight, but it's a magnificent set. It's top notch. It's first rate, and you cannot see that on a lot of stages in town.
And even the smallest touches, I thought were, and I'm not grasping to try to cover. I don't notice technical things either because I'm an actor and a singer. I do what I know. But even the little things like indicating cars coming back into the driveway, would have a really physically accurate swing around of a spotlight to indicate cars pulling into a driveway. Like that was not, they didn't half-ass that.
For that, we have to give credit to Jason Foster, the lighting designer.
Yeah.
And the B.J. Cleveland, who directed, was also the sound designer.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, you're absolutely right. It was very well done.
And little things like that indicate not only that someone was taking care, but that the director and the stage manager and the producers had everything so well in hand that they had time to put those little touches on there.
Right.
Because you and I have both been in shows where sometimes putting the work out there is the best you can do.
Exactly.
And you go, oh well, make paddleball noises from backstage with your voice and
Paddleball.
I don't know, man. Write that down. It's a good idea. But so sometimes stuff like that happens. You just kind of have to make do because when you're doing
the production values aren't there. There either isn't enough time, or there isn't the budget, and you're expected to fill in the blanks when it really should have been somebody else's job.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to say the stage manager for this production, because stage managers are always taken for granted by the audience and frequently by actors. I have to say that I do not take my stage managers for granted. And when I have a good one, I definitely make sure that they know that they are appreciated. And the stage manager for this show is Luisa Ann Torres. And there was something else that you mentioned I wanted to make sure that we... I think a lot of credit has to go to Dennis Canwright, who builds sets all over the place and directs as well. But Dennis is I say infatigable, although I think that's the right way to say that. But the man really should be in a hospital, the amount of work that he does. And so everybody who worked and built that set, it looks really great.
It looks really good.
Nice. And Susie Cranford, dear woman, who pretty much costumes just about everything that Uptown Players does.
Yeah.
She had some challenges in this show. A full Snow White costume, two dwarves, and other things that probably we should leave as a mystery in case people go see the show.
Because you should go see it on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
You really should. It runs through this weekend. It does close on Sunday, March 9th. Is that right?
Yes.
So you do have a few more chances to see it this weekend, and you really should. It's everyone that I've heard of has said positive things about it, and I can't think of a negative.
Well, just one more note about the costuming.
Yes.
I would just say that from a different perspective in terms of how good they were and how good Susie is, and I'm showing favoritism because she's costumed me before, but I will say that she is one of the few people that Bruce Coleman, a fine costumer in his own right, will trust to costume his shows.
Yes.
If that says anything about the skills that lady brings to the table.
Well, that was amazing. You brown-nosed two people in one sentence. Very, very, very... I like to see some ass kissing that exceeds my own. I'm trying to think of what else we really should... I would say don't go in expecting anything except a good time, because if you expect it to be one thing, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's a brisk show. It is not very long. Each act is just over an hour.
It never felt like it.
It didn't.
Like, and most of the time, is that anyone who's gone to see plays with me is, I say it was great, but it was too long.
Yeah.
This, if you want my CV on that, I came and saw Assassins, and I thought that was Assassins. That was great. Too long.
How dare you? How dare you?
Well, blame...
So you'll ass kiss everybody except me.
Yeah.
You are the special guest star of my first podcast.
Blame Stephen Sondheim and Sondheim and Wheeler for writing such a...
Not Weidman.
Weidman, whatever.
Wheeler did Sweeney Todd.
Fine.
Wheeler did the show that neither of us are doing. Let's put it that way.
We'll do it. I'll do it in our minds.
Exactly. Well, that's
I can't.
I do that frequently.
Honestly, I can't think of. Okay, if I were to really go, if I had to nitpick and find something, I thought that Masha, Diana Sheehan's character, was overblown in the first act, but.
There's a reason and a payoff.
She had her reckoning and the reasoning and the payoff in the second act.
Well, and she's the more famous. She's the only. she's the only member of her family that has broken out and become a success. And she comes back. She's sort of a parody of the Hollywood glad-hander actress.
Yeah.
But I agree. It was
a longer game on the, or
Yes.
a longer game on the satire than
Very-
most of the rest of the gigs.
Very well put. Exactly.
And even though the Bob Hess's great moment in the second act is getting most of the press, I was, and I don't use this phrase lightly, really, really taken aback and blown away by Wendy Welch's
Yes.
telephone conversation.
Yes.
Just one of the. I don't want to brown nose anymore, but it was just a really fine piece of acting.
I agree.
Moving and completely engaging, and probably more engaging to me because I didn't see it coming, and it was so
Right.
and it was so still.
And what she had to do was, I think you could say, more difficult than Bob's moment, because
It wasn't a monologue; it was a half dialogue.
Yeah, telephone calls are always hard to do, and at first I wasn't sure that it was going to pay off, and then it paid off in a way I didn't expect, and it was really very moving. And some people I've heard criticism of this play, the script, that they didn't like it as much as other Durang. And I think for my, what's the cliche for
your money,
for my money, that'll work.
For your $1.05.
For my money, I think this is a step forward for Durang. It's sometimes he has some poignancy in his scripts, but this one really packed an emotional punch.
Unexpectedly, yeah.
And it's funny because you were mentioning the contrast between Bob's and Wendy's. And Diana also has a similar moment.
Had her thing.
And it's interesting that these three characters, the three lead characters of the show, all have their sort of catharsis. And it's funny, very referential of classic, I want to say literature, but classic theatrical literature, is that catharsis of the hero or the anti-hero. And there, again, like you said before, there are tons of references to other literature, and it's just 3 days left, folks. Go see it. I hope that everyone gets to watch this or watch this. I told you it wasn't going to be video.
Yeah.
Hope that everyone gets to listen to this before the show closes, because it really is fantastic.
I guess it better go on the internet soon then.
It will go on the internet later this evening.
Good.
So
And,
they'll wake up to it tomorrow morning.
For any theater literature fans out there, Durang has kind of a reputation as being inaccessible and dense, and as I said before, I'm not so good at the whole parsing of subtle things, but I thought this was really accessible and relatable.
Yeah.
And I think, more ass kissing ahoy. I think it has a lot to do with how well it was staged.
Well, there
acted.
was the audience tonight was a mix. There were a lot of theater people in the audience, but there were also, regular patrons of Uptown. Of course, regular patrons of Uptown are up for a lot of stuff that, some of the other theaters in town, their patronage is not quite as game, I think. Game, I said, with an M.
With an M.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I think that there had to have been a good portion of the audience tonight that was not, theatrically inclined. And that's not what I mean. Not theatrically...
Versed?
Well, yes. Not in the arts,
Yeah.
is basically what I'm trying to say. And I think that they really seem to enjoy it quite a bit.
Normal people is what you're saying.
Civilians is what I should have said.
Yeah.
Yes, there were quite a few civilians, and they seemed to enjoy themselves.
We should never forget that we are the weird ones.
Yes, and thank God, because normal is boring. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't want to miss anything that I wanted to say, or that you would want to say. It's tougher whenever a show is this uniformly good, because
Yeah, could you pick a shittier show next time?
I'll try. I'll try. I don't see a lot of shitty shows. That's the perk of being an independent reviewer, is that I don't have an assignment or a deadline. I don't have to see a show and review it.
Yeah.
So the shows that I see are usually the ones that I want to see.
So you missed a brilliant opportunity to ask the entire DFW theater community there.
It's true.
I don't see any shitty shows.
There are no shitty shows in Dallas. Good God, man. Who are you? Yes.
Fastest growing arts district in the country.
So once again, this is Christopher Durang's Vanya and Sonia, Masha and Spike. It is being produced by Uptown Players at the Kalita Humphreys Theater. I'm not even going to give you the address because no one's going to write that down when they listen anyway. Yeah. You'll look it up online. But it will play Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. And those are your last chances. So do yourselves a favor. This will be one of the productions this year that if you don't see it, people will say, oh, did you see Vanya at Uptown Players?
And when you say no, they'll mock you.
They will. They may not mock you openly unless it's either Ian or myself, yeah. But they will mock you privately behind your back. And nobody wants that unless you just like attention. So that is, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, fuck off. No, please. I do like constructive criticism. So let us know what you think. And tell your friends to listen as well. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for doing this, Ian.
Thanks for asking me.
I appreciate it. Take care, dude.
Bye.